Hey there, Bob.
Hey Kevin, how's it going tonight?
All right, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome, thank you.
How'd you like that mugshot?
Mine was better.
You're I always wonder. I haven't had a mugshot yet, but I always wonder how I would look. What face do you make? They had all the 18 of them. I think one of his attorneys, I think Jenna Ellis or whatever, she had a smiling face. Rudy sort of looked like the curmudgeon, but Donald had the glare. I think he probably practiced that in front of the mirror for a while. What you think?
Yeah, I was thinking he had to, right?
Right. He was ready for it. Either that or he made him take a couple different shots. You think you think you think if you're a former president you could ask, to see the picture and get the approval before they move on?
Yep. Yeah.
How's my hair look and all that? He wasn't there for long, that's for
His
sure.
hair was perfect. He had the suit. I mean, the tie looked good. He had the red tie that he normally have, but he just had the scowl like, I'm
Yeah.
upset. I'm angry. He was obviously posing. I actually thought he would have been smiling.
Yeah. Yeah, he should have done a goofy smile or something. a
Right?
thumbs up a thumbs up type of thing. you know?
Yeah. Sit
Just
up
thumbs up.
straight, sit
Yeah.
back a little, shoulders back, thumbs
Right.
up, smile. Yeah, the campaign pose. Yeah.
Yeah. That would have been good. Or the his dancing move where he's got his shoulders going and the arms going. That would have been good. I think it would have
You
gone viral at that point.
think you can feel confident you can already buy it on a t-shirt though.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there already. Well, in case you haven't guessed it, today was the day that I think it's probably the first time before. I was trying to think back whether Clinton actually ever got a mug shot at any point, but I think he somehow sidestepped that. So it might be the first presidential mugshot we've ever had.
It is actually. I heard that today that it was going to be the first presidential mugshot in history.
Yeah, I think they just sketched Martin Van Buren when he went in.
Yeah, I would think so.
it was just it was just like a chalk drawing. No, I don't think Martin Van Buren was ever arrested for anything. But yeah,
I'm trying to think. I don't think there was any. Well, no, no, there was no president arrested in history.
nope. I was
At least
watching.
not post presidency. There's probably somebody arrested pre presidency and it was covered up or not communicated.
I was watching Fox today, flipping back and forth between the channels, just in case he turned himself in earlier. And there was actually an ad on Fox for letter. He did an ad. Have you seen this? He does the ad himself for the Letters to Trump coffee table book. Have you seen this?
I have not.
It was like a Saturday Night Live thing. Yeah, he's got a Letters to Trump. So it's like one was Ronald Reagan. I think it's letters he's collected throughout his life that people wrote, and so he's doing the ad himself. It's 45books.com, I think. Um, is the absolute funniest thing that I saw at the end? He's got like a 7-year-old boy and like a 5-year-old girl like flipping through the book, smiling.
Amazing.
I gotta go to the website to see what he's charging for that. I mean,
It's got
it's
to be
just
like 49.99.
yeah. It just cracked me up. I just couldn't. I was like, could you imagine? I'm wondering if he had to like call these people to get permission to print the letters that they. I'm guessing he didn't do that, or
No.
either most of them are dead and or whatnot. So, oh, he's too much. So,
I,
anyways,
got- I, I
go ahead.
got to tell you, I want to read it.
You want-
Maybe one of our nights where we're hanging out, either up there or down here, I'll get the book and we'll read it.
yeah, I was looking for a birthday present for Deb. So, you
It'll
know,
make the wives much more proud of us than reading Urban Dictionary for a couple hours.
yeah, I think they've had enough of that. I think they've had enough of that. So, anyways, we want to welcome to the podcast, sensiblecentercast.com. We'll skip the long introduction, but you can find us on the internet at sensiblecenterpack.com. Gmail, sensiblecenterpack@gmail.com. Please send any thoughts, questions, or ideas you'd like us to cover in future podcasts. We always like to hear from our listeners, and we're also on X, and I haven't written that information down yet.
USASC Pack. At USASC Pack.
All right. And the podcast is available on Apple and Google, and we're working on getting it out to Spotify soon. So thanks for joining us. What we thought we'd do tonight is kind of cover the recent Republican debate, which was right here in the great state of Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where they're going to hold the DNC National Convention next year. So they rolled through town and had it at the good old Pfizer Forum.
You ever
Deb's
been to
had
one of those? Have you ever been to a convention,
No,
national
no,
convention?
no, not a convention nor a debate. I don't know if you have to be like an insider to get tickets to those. I'd love to go to one.
I feel like you
Just to
kind of
see.
do, but I've never tried either.
I think for
One
the
year, actually, it was the one between Clinton's terms. I was in Chicago walking around downtown that night, and they had it going on over at Navy Pier. And I tried to go into Navy Pier, and yeah, they stopped me. Said nope.
nope. You didn't make it very far.
Nope.
So, anyways, Fox. I think this was a Fox News one, right? They hosted the Republican debate. They didn't have the whole field.
12.8 million viewers last night.
Is that a good number or a bad number?
It's lower than previous years.
Oh, it's because the big guy wasn't there.
I think so too.
We made the wrong call on that, though, Bob. We both thought, that he needed to show up, and evidently he wasn't listening to our podcast.
I think. Yeah, I still think he should have showed up.
I don't know. We could get into it as we talk about the various candidates and kind of what they covered in the podcast. I mean, in the debate, and we could talk about whether it made sense for him to skip it. We'll also talk about his interview with his alternative programming on, I guess it was on X. Tucker. Is it called Tucker on X?
Yep.
With Tucker Carlson, which we both viewed also to kind of break that down and see if he had anything new to say there in regards to his. I think he taped it before the debates anyway, so I don't think he commented on anything directly that was covered in the debate. So what was your take of the? I guess they had eight candidates. I don't know how big the field is now. I think it's 15 or so.
They had 8.
So.
There's more that didn't make the debate stage. And I don't know if I want to go too deep into it right now, but I think there's a few that probably should have made the debate stage just based on some other activity, interviews out there in podcasts and on the radio. I think they need to be given a bigger opportunity, but anyway, yeah, so there were 8. I honestly think the debate was about what I expect, but I was still a bit disappointed. I just feel like, and it's always that when there's a larger field especially, but anytime there's a debate now, it's so well scripted. And they're not going to say anything that's going to surprise you. None of them really feel sincere. All of them feel like they're just reciting a script, looking for votes, trying not to mess up, playing it safe, right? It's kind of like your prevent defense when you're up 30-0 in the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden you're giving up 2 touchdowns because you're just trying to play it safe and not lose, and that's what the debate felt like, to be honest with you.
Which is strange because they all basically have nothing to lose, right? I mean, at this point, they're all pretty significant also-rans. So why are they playing it safe at this point? Now's the time where you want to, go for Gusco, make a name for yourself, I don't get it.
Yeah, yeah, because right, if you're just going to play it safe, why bother?
Right. Why are
If
they even
if
running?
if you're under the assumption that Trump has the nomination, then why bother? What's the point? It's fair. Um,
Well,
and
before we
maybe
get
the one guy, right, Ramaswamy, he's young. You figure he's got a future ahead of him, running and running again. He's trying some things out. He's new to it. Yeah, I've got comments on DeSantis as well. I guess we should probably wait a little bit before we get into that. But
well
yeah, I mean, got
before
to
we
make
do
a
that, I
name.
forgot that we need to cover what we're drinking. Maybe I've had a bit too much already. I am
I
going
thought this
with
was water night. No,
nope, not water night. I pulled again. I'm going with the strategy of just pulling stuff that I neither bought nor know where it exactly came from. But I've got in my hand some rare blended Scotch whiskey. It's called J and B. Have you heard of it?
I have
Might
heard of J and B.
might be one of the biggest selling Scotch whiskeys. I never read the label before, but it's pretty impressive. It says by appointment to the late Majesties, and then it starts with King George III, which has to go back pretty far, I think. Right?
Yeah, that's
King
pretty
George
old.
III. I think he might have been the second or the third was the revolutionary one. I'm pretty sure. It's a product of Scotland, so it's true Scotch whiskey. Normally, I don't like Scotch. Are you a big fan of Scotch?
I'm not a fan of the peat.
Yeah, I don't know. It's that minerally. Uh, if I'm
Yep.
gonna drink, I like maybe I like the sweetness of our whiskey and bourbon better than the peat
Yeah.
the peat
It's just
flavor.
peat's a little smoky, which the smokiness doesn't bother me. It's just there's something about it that just I can't. Maybe it's because I don't drink good scotch. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's just not my thing.
Yeah, I mean maybe I like the idea of Scotch because
Oh, absolutely.
but I've never been that into it. So I'm doing
It's
it
the
on ice.
history. If nothing else, it's the history, and the people that love scotch are passionate about it, which tells me it's probably good once you kind of get that I don't know familiarity with it, but I don't know. Can't get into it.
Right. It's just I don't think even really good Scotch is still going to have that peat essence to it. Right. I mean,
Yep, absolutely.
if you don't enjoy that, I don't think no matter how much you pay for it, it's going to make a difference. Although
So
I don't mind this one tonight. I think it's a little lighter than than I'm used to, and when I've tried Scotch before. So I don't think I've had any of this. Although somehow the bottle's already more than half empty. So I don't know who's been taking it, but hasn't been me. So what are you drinking?
I am drinking tonight a Larceny Barrel Proof batch C922. Um,
Nice.
yeah, it's 126.6 proof, so it's up there.
What's it tasting
But
like?
it's good. It's little smoky, it's got some sweetness to it. It's a wheated bourbon. A little bit of maple, a little bit of oak, a little bit of pepper, but it's got kind of that sweet vanilla, almost creme brulee overtone with some, toasted sugar on it. It's good.
Listen to you. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, it's light. It's got some peat in it. You're like, hey, maple sugar. A little bit of creme brulee, but not too well done creme brulee. When
Yeah.
they really put the flame and that.
That's what it is.
A medium torch creme
When you're
brulee.
down and you visit soon, hopefully, we'll enjoy some stuff.
That's some, looking forward to it. So here's my take on it. And by the way, if you come up with a catchphrase yet,
You know, I thought about I thought about going with "Settle Down, Kevin."
That's right.
And I think that's kind of what I'm going to settle on right now because I just love it.
It's just so
In honor
perfect,
of the
right?
latest Beavis and Butthead season, Mike Judge, I'm a fan of his. Why not? Settle down, Kevin.
Settle down, Kevin. All
Settle down,
right,
Kevin.
you're gonna go with that.
This week,
All right. Speaking of trademarked or catchphrases, uh, I always thought like before a debate they should just bring Michael Buffer out. The guy who does the ring announcing. He copyrighted that "Let's Get Ready to Rumble."
I did not know that, but he
Yeah,
should.
he's made like I think he's made like $400 million. And I could say it because I'm not using it for a product endorsement or anything. But yeah, if somebody like uses it in a commercial or to sell a product, he's got his attorneys out there collecting the money. It's brilliant. Well, anyways, I'm guessing that's why the RNC doesn't use him because they'd have to probably pay him good deal of money.
It's a lot
Um,
of money.
so my take, did you see the drone that Fox was using at all? They started the debate with like a drone that kind of went in front of all the candidates. I think it freaked everyone out because it was like this little drone and you could hear it speeding across the theater. I think Chris Christie thought it was going to take a sandwich or something. He had a sandwich. Did you see that?
I did see that.
He had a
It's
sandwich inside his podium, and every time they cut away,
I I people are calling him Krispy Kreme Christie. No, have you heard that yet?
no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I'm a bigger guy. I shouldn't make fun of him, but it's too easy, right?
Yep.
Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme Christie.
Surprised Trump hasn't come up with anything like that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he'll. That's a good one. He'll probably try to take that one over. I think
I
if it
do
gets
like
there.
I do like him as a bulldog, New Jersey prosecutor kind of guy, somewhat straight shooter, but we could get into it. But he seems to have lost his way. I think he had his time back in 10 years ago, and then he had that bridge scandal and everything. So
Yeah, and
seems like he's
I
lost
mean,
his way.
I've heard some other rumors about him, and he's not as how do I say this, upstanding or conservative as some people might, or as he might want to be thought of him.
Right.
Things he's done, limos he's ridden in, and things that have happened in the limos and things like that.
What?
It's yeah, I don't think I
All
don't want a
right.
lawsuit, so I'm not going to expand on that. But
You've just heard
yeah,
things.
I've heard some stories from limo drivers and things,
Wow.
and
All right.
yeah. And this isn't
Anyways,
internet stuff either. I'm not going to start spreading rumors, but I'm
all
just
right.
saying it's not internet stuff I read either. Anyway,
I'll have to use my catchphrase. Well, hold on a second there, Bob. I think that's the one I'm going to fall on. So for now, anyways.
for
Um,
this week,
so what I did, I thought I'd like keep track of how many times they said Trump's name or the word woke or debt or hunter or reform. So I had tracked those five things. And number one, it seemed like strangely, I it seemed like they were running against each other and didn't want to talk about Trump, which is really strange from a strategy standpoint. I only had before they asked the question about Trump, and even after I had mentioned four times during that 2 hour debate. They did have one question on him, and DeSantis didn't even want to talk about him then. So it was like he was Voldemort or something. They couldn't say his name
yeah,
like suddenly he was going to appear from behind the screen and take them all down.
that's it's kind of strange because Ramaswamy outside of the debate likes to talk about Trump and he likes to support him, and he did that in the debate as well. But yes, I was surprised overall how they stayed away from him as a topic altogether.
Right.
They're scared of him. I think that's got to be the reason.
Did you hear
The
Max?
party's different.
Yeah. Is it Max Bear? Brent Bear. Max Bear was
Brett
a
Brett Brett
Brett
Bear.
Bear. Brett Bear.
Yeah,
He said, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. I don't know if he was making a joke about that or not, but
maybe he was making a joke about Chris Christie and everybody missed it.
that's right. But it definitely seemed to be a pro-Trump crowd too. It seemed it seemed like they got that indication too, and they didn't want to be booed like Chris Christie was right off the bat and throughout the whole thing. Because I think Christie was the only one who really went against Trump, which is sort of his strategy throughout this, being the insider. Um, but that was kind of strange. So to me, it seemed kind of overall that they wanted to go after. We'll call him Ramaswamy instead of Vivek, because it seems like he's been gaining momentum recently. Did you hear him on Bill Maher
I did.
on the podcast? The guy likes to talk, and he talks really quick.
He
Uh,
does.
he's got good teeth.
He
He's
does.
got a good look. Actually, I did a little bit of research on him. Have you looked into his background at all?
I have. He's got
Yeah,
a lot of money.
he's got money.
He's
He's
got
almost got a
a
billion
history
dollars.
of taking some donations from liberal entities, at least perceived liberal entities.
Well, he got a fellowship money from George Soros,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
kind of
that's
interesting.
one of the things I was referring to. As recently as March, his position on climate change was drastically different than his position that he took in the debate, which is interesting.
Which was what?
So in the in back in March, he told CBS that climate change was real. That was March of this year. But in the debate the other night, he called it a hoax.
Yes, he did call it hoax. I was kind of
Yeah,
surprised too
yeah.
that he would say that. So
And
go ahead.
that's a line, that would hit hard with the base, right? The Republican or conservative base or MAGA base or whatever you want to call it. And that's one of the things I think a lot of people see Ramaswamy as potentially not being honest with them. I think he's a smart guy. He's really quick. He's really smart.
Yep.
But there's
Don't I?
just some things there that make you think this guy might just not be what he's pretending to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see over time. Just to give everyone a little bit of background, because he seems to be outside of DeSantis and possibly Nikki Haley, um, maybe someone who might challenge Trump here or gain some momentum as being seen an outsider who kind of speaks his mind. He's sort of a pharma bro, right? I mean, he's got his money through. He's a Harvard educated libertarian, basically, right? I mean,
Yep.
if Wikipedia has anything to say, it sounds like he leans towards the libertarian, and definitely his foreign policy views, which he was hit on last night, would appear to be libertarian, and definitely his views on getting rid of the FBI and getting rid of a lot of the government bureaucrats and agencies
Yeah.
appear to be towards a
NEA,
libertarian bent.
FDA. Yeah.
So it would seem like he would appeal to you and your generation, right? I mean,
I've been thinking about him a lot. And if you compare him to Trump in 2016, there are a lot of parallels. He doesn't have a lot of political history. There was history on Trump, but he wasn't a politician. He's rich, businessman. He's good with one-liners, so he comes off kind of like a bumper sticker, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, the thing is, all those parallels, still he feels drastically different than Trump in the sense that I think a lot of people don't trust him for the same reasons that people trusted Trump. And the only thing I can put my finger on is like Vivek comes off as very smart.
Almost
He,
cockingly,
yep.
cocky, and I think I
And,
heard on Fox that somebody said that he seemed very cocksure of himself. I don't know what that means, but
yeah,
that
and Trump, is more comes off as more the common man,
right.
just because of the way
somehow,
he's
somehow he's the
somehow,
common
yeah,
man.
yeah,
Somehow the liberal New York billionaire becomes the common man. But whatever.
just it's the way
I
it's the
agree.
way
He's
he
got that.
speaks, the way he insults people, like that's what it's because again, I mean, if you look at them, look at the two candidates, 2016 or yeah, 2016 versus now. There's a lot of similarities there.
Yep.
So what's you know, but why is it that Trump still has this strong following and this strong support? And Ramaswamy, I mean, he's rising in the polls, but I don't think it's the same situation. I can't see him rising to the top. He's not he's not the cream.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if he, gets a technology strategy and does some interesting things, clearly he's on the podcast tour and getting out there and trying to appeal to that segment of the population. And like we said, he talks a good game. He raps, right? I mean, if I guess
Plays tennis with no shirt on. Yeah,
plays tennis with no shirt on. He's got a hedge fund and Goldman Sachs in his background. Wrote a book called Woke Inc. Although woke only came up. That was only said once last night, and I'm amazed by that since it seems a lot of especially DeSantis' campaign seems to be based on wokeness, and Hunter only came up twice, which is kind of
yeah.
interesting. They didn't focus on him either, or Joe for
That's
that matter.
really one of the things I hit DeSantis on in my note is he really needs to stand on his record harder. He's got a record in Florida standing against the woke left, the COVID lockdowns, the books in grade school, things
Right.
like that. And for some reason, he doesn't stand behind his record. With that record and how he got reelected in Florida, he should be a spokesman for his record. He doesn't need to be a spokesman for himself. Standing behind his record, talking strictly on his record, portray way more confidence. But instead, he just comes off as awkward. And honestly, back when he won re-election, I mean, maybe it's because he was running a state race and nobody noticed, but he did not come off as awkward. I had no perception of DeSantis as being an awkward individual. But you watch him now in these national races, and he just can't quite seem to just talk. Here's what I did, right?
Yeah, I mean, when he talked last night, it was weird. I mean, he shouted. It was like a scripted item, and then he would like just stop and look around. I mean, it was really he couldn't really interact too much, do a back and forth with other people too much, and he would just kind of come in and say his piece and then stop. It was really strange. I don't think he's a natural debater at all, and I think that's gonna hurt him here.
Yeah.
Um,
And again, he just has to stand behind his record. I did this because of this, and you know, the woke did this, and I did this to combat it. I protected your children by A, B, C, D. And he stood up there last night. And he was blaming Fauci
right,
for the economic mess.
right. Yep, he said I
There's
would have
plenty of
fired
stuff to
Fauci.
yeah. There's plenty of stuff to blame Fauci for, right? I mean, I've got plenty of issues with Fauci, but he's not the issue to be debating in the situation we're in when we have what's going on with the economy. We have what's going on in housing, inflation,
Right.
student loans coming back, you know, interest rates. it's just it's pretty interesting to me. I don't understand. I mean, he's either got really bad campaign management or he's completely misguided.
Yeah, I was watching, a little bit of Jesse Walters. I guess he's the guy who replaced Tucker, right?
Jesse
Water
Waters. Yeah.
Walters.
I don't even have Fox. I don't even have TV right now.
Bob's TV list. He's doing
I
this
am.
all through the internet. And he had mentioned that, basically none of them really came up with solutions to any of the problems they presented last night. So, I mean, it's the first debate. Hopefully, once the crowd gets down a little bit and they wind down from 8 to 3 or 4 or whatever, I think two. I think two are going to drop off next time, so they'll be down to 6, and hopefully Trump will decide to join at some point. But eventually, they're going to have to talk about, how they're going to go about. uh, From what I understand, I heard spending a lot. We spend too much money, and I didn't hear anyone talk about military spending, but even though that's by far the largest spending that we do,
I
and I
believe
think
Haley made a comment last night in support of Ukraine
right,
and the war in Ukraine. We've only given them 3.5% of our defense budget.
yeah,
That,
that's what I heard. I laughed at that. I'm like,
I
that's a
yeah,
pretty big number, I think.
that would have been a great line if she was saying that in a sarcastic
Right?
manner, right? I think that would hit with the base hard, but there was no sarcasm to that.
No, none. It's like we've only given 3% of our military budget to
Yeah,
Ukraine so far, and I think that might still be a little, low
it's
as
just
far as how much we've given or whatnot. So
every
yeah,
damn one of them last night should have stood up and said, "I'm against this war. I'm against funding the war."
yeah, I
That's how
think
that's my perspective. 'Cause at minimum, if they believe it, and that's an if, they should say it, and it will separate you from the rest of the crowd. What are they so afraid of? Or
well
does every
Vivek
one of them want the war?
Vivek definitely came out on not paying for any more of that, which is not surprising coming from the libertarian background. I think at that point, both Pence and Haley kind of said, you don't know what you're talking about, basically, which is kind of a weak response because it's not really arguing the point whether we should be involved in that or not. Other than, if we don't stop him here, he's going to go on further, and, the usual that we hear, why we need to get involved in other conflicts around the world. Um, so they were trying to be the voice of reason, and I don't think Mike Pence did a bad job last night. I'm not a person. He still comes off pretty stiff and whatnot, but that's just who he is, I guess. Um, to me, as far as the field goes, um, I think Nikki Haley was sort of the voice of reason. I think she improved her profile at
Yeah,
least
I think
for
yeah,
um, what I would say. Oh,
Penn,
you're messing up now.
Penn, Pence feels like he's
Oh,
running. He, Pence feels like he's running to win the. He feels like he's running to win the 1988 Republican nomination. That's who that guy is to me.
maybe he thinks he is. You're right. I mean, he's a throwback to say the
Yeah,
least.
and we're not there, and we weren't there. I mean, John McCain tried to run that way as well against Obama. It didn't work, and th- that will probably be the last Republican that gets the nomination running in that manner. I think McCain. I don't see it happening again, and I think that's the problem with the current Republican field right now. Is you know that's who they all are, apparently, with the exception of Trump and Ramaswamy. And you could make the argument DeSantis if he could figure out how to run.
Right. I
Again,
agree. I'd agree. Haley comes from that dynamic too, just the traditional conservative background. Um, Ronald Reagan supporting, and they're trying to put I would say they're trying to put Pandora's box has been opened, and they're trying to put it back to where it once was. Which you got to give them some credit for trying, uh,
It
because
just they have to, like, every one of them needs to take a stance, right? And Biden doesn't take a stance really either, honestly, but or at least he hadn't as a candidate. I guess he's doing it more so now as president. Not that I agree with his stance, generally speaking, but I mean, we'll just take abortion last night. Nikki Haley,
yeah,
right? Her answer was garbage.
you
She
didn't
said
like
it'll
her
be
answer.
difficult to get through Congress. She didn't take a stance at all. Take a stance. You support it or you don't. Tell the people where you are.
Well,
I thought it was garbage.
my take on that is that she's effectively right that if your point was you want to return it to the states and have each state decide, now we're talking about having a national ban. To me, it's a bait and switch. Because I've
She could have said that.
maybe it's not, but I always remember the debate or the issue was, well, states' rights, and but maybe it's true that on and I agree. I mean, on an important issue like this, um, which I
That
consider a very important issue, I think we should have a national agreement or consensus or legislation on. I, you believe
and
in more states' rights. I believe in more federalism. So I wouldn't shy away from that. Whatever the right number is in regards to, or the right approach is in regards to abortions and having them, and legislation in regard to that. I think that's the way it should go. I don't like the
you know,
idea of
on
being
one
locked
level,
up. Right.
I agree with you. I mean, there needs to be some federal involvement, but I think it's in a different direction than you. We shouldn't be allowing abortion until the moment of birth.
No, I agree. I
Some
mean,
states are
like I said,
allowing
I
that.
think
That's ridiculous. But I also think that if Texas wants to make abortion illegal, I think they should absolutely have that right. If California wants to make it legal, fine. I'm not an abortion supporter. Never have been. I'm all for the states' rights, but I do think there needs to be at least some level of, the kid's going to be born in 5 minutes. You got to kill it now, or it's not legal anymore. I mean, that's just disgusting. It's
right. You think
it's
that we would be able to come to some type of, and I think the American people could probably generally is like we say we're the sensible center. I think we could all come to some reasonable basis that it's not this point and it's not that point, and it should be it should be rare, but
yeah.
there should be the generally the option at some point. But you know, she shot that down right away, saying there's no possibility for it. Can hear you better
I
now.
think that's something that we're not really addressing as a pack. We haven't written it into
Nope.
our requirements. It's kind of somewhat of a wedge issue. We're we're more worried about reform and term limits, campaign finance reform. The rest of it's on the website, of course. Really, we've kind of left that out, one way or the other from a funding standpoint. And the reason being is if we fight over something like that, we're not going to be able to get real reform.
That's right.
And
The thing is, you're never going to get, and I believe this, and it's been said over and over again. You're never going to get to solutions on those issues until you do the other reform, because the
nope.
system is broken in so many ways. Like she said, I mean, she didn't talk about reforming the system, but she said we're never going to get 60 votes on any of this, and that's because of all these other mechanisms that there is no real legislating and compromise going on because that's not how people are incented nowadays. And so the real difficult issues, be it Social Security, be it the debt, you name it, involvement in foreign wars, there's, you know, there's logical solutions to be had, sensible solutions to be had, but our political system and the incentives for those people involved are so messed up, you can't get to those answers. So whatever issue you care about, be it, any of those that we've discussed, it's going to be a very difficult, and she's right in that sense, to get those answers and those compromises that the American people can
Yeah.
support.
Yep. No, and agree. I agree. I think she's right in saying it's going to be difficult to get through Congress. I just would have liked to see her take a bit more of a stance. And I actually thought that was the one spot where Pence hit a chord in the whole debate, where Pence said consensus is the opposite of leadership.
Yep.
Um, and and that's why I think DeSantis did well in Florida. I think that's why Trump did well in 2016. I think that's why Ramaswamy's kind of dancing around, maybe relevant, because they're saying things and taking stances at a minimum. Back to Nikki Haley, she had the idea that when it came to climate change, we need to tell China and India to lower emissions.
Right.
And that's the same argument that a lot of people say we need to support Ukraine because we stand against Russia. And my opinion is we're not the president of the world. We need to stop acting like it. We've got no right to tell China and India to lower emissions. We can take action if that's what we truly believe, and I'm not making any stance on climate change here. If we believe China and India need to take lower emissions, do something about it. Don't tell them to do it. Stop supporting them. Stop buying things from them. Stop creating free trade laws if that's what you want to do, or take back the free trade laws that you created. Fine, take action, but you can't just tell people what to do because you're America. We're not their boss. We're not their president. I find that to be absolutely ridiculous. And again, I'm not arguing against free trade. I'm a free trade guy. That said, the attitude that America can just go out and tell other countries what to do is what gets us in trouble, and what I think most Americans hate about our general political elite at this point.
Yeah, we should lead through our actions and our strength, and we can use our leverage and our buying power or whatever to create things that we like, but just going out and telling people what we want them to do, um, I think those days, I think those days are well over, right?
Yeah, I mean, for this cycle, right? It's a pendulum.
Yep, definitely. Um, some other funny things that came up. Did you hear where Christie called Vivek Chat GPT or whatever?
Yeah, I
which, I,
did.
which I thought was a good line.
Yeah, he was trying to figure out a way to go after him. Yeah, it kind of loosely made sense because he's kind of moving a mile a minute, or like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't stop talking, and he's just going and going and going and going, and sees what sticks. I thought it was all right.
yeah. Uh,
It was a good line. I just don't, again, that's not policy, right?
yeah,
Vivek's trying,
yeah.
and I was generally speaking pretty disappointed with the whole stage from a policy standpoint. There wasn't a whole lot of here's what I will do.
Yeah, they definitely have to get into that. And I think they were all like a bit confused on because Trump wasn't there. So um, I think they were all a bit confused about what to do and how to approach it. I mean, Nikki Haley, she, and maybe this is the approach to Trump. She basically said, you know, I she worked for Trump. She said, I agree with most of his policies. I was proud to serve in his administration, But at the end of the day, he's the most disliked politician in America, and she doesn't think he can win the election. That's a possibility. I mean, you
And
have to,
that's a
you have
hard
to,
argument to argue against.
yeah, you have to attack him on electability because I didn't hear anything different policy wise or anything. I mean, they talked about immigration and
But here's the thing,
and
right? Is
enforcing the border, and it's like, yeah, you're not really distinguishing yourself from the lead candidate at all. None of them did, other than on character or whatnot. I didn't
I'm
hear
just
like you
not
said.
sure that any of the Republican candidates running outside of Trump at this point are any more electable than Kamala Harris. She's absolutely not electable, right? So, I mean, it's is Nikki Haley going to get 270 electoral votes? Absolutely not.
Well, here's the thing, Bob. I mean, I hear you, but and as I've said before, this is a pickle because uh, then we're going to be stuck with the choices that we're at, right? I do think she's uh, qualified to be president of the United States. I might even consider I think several people were on that
I,
stage are qualified to be
I think
president of the United
Vivek's
States.
qualified.
Right.
We need a young president. I mean, well, Clinton was about 35, right? I think so. Vivek was about the same age Clinton was
I
when he
think
got elected.
Clinton was around 40. I think Vivek
Was
would be
he?
the youngest. Yeah.
Okay, maybe 38. Clinton was. I thought. Yeah, something like that. Clinton was the youngest up to that point. Yeah. Regardless, I mean, Vivek, I think, is qualified. I'm not sure if he's sincere in his statements at this point. DeSantis could do it. But being qualified and being electable is two different things.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if somebody pulls out in front. I think the next debate is I think towards the end of September. Um, so we'll see if
Honestly, if you put Dwayne the Rock Johnson up against Biden and Trump, do you think he could win?
at this point I maybe.
Maybe. Very well. Think something like that. My point is, electability matters, right?
Yep. Yeah. It's all about. I mean, at this point, it's all about electability. Not because that's how we're where we're at. Each party's looking at who would be the most electable, and you've got known quantities versus unknown quantities. So do you have a rematch? I don't think anyone's happy with that though. So it's kind of like the sequel to the movie that nobody wants to see, right? But they're going to still produce it because they know that people are going to end up buying the ticket and seeing it, right? And everyone's going to be disappointed. That's what I would equate this election to at this point, right?
Did you see that some states are actually trying to take Trump off the ballot altogether?
No.
They're saying if Trump's the nominee, I think California was one of them, but there are others. If Trump's the nominee, they're not going to allow him on their ballot,
Huh. I haven't heard that.
which is really interesting to me because, again, I'm a states' rights guy.
Right?
So I'm not sure that there's a fight or an argument against that in a court of law. But what's interesting about that is, well, then you get a state like, I don't know, let's say Wisconsin, it's pretty purple, or Pennsylvania, right? Or Ohio, that decides, all right, well, we're just not going to put Biden on there because Biden's got some political issues that we've covered already.
Yeah, that would
Where,
not be a
where,
good result, I don't
where
think.
do you end up? So I
Yeah.
don't, yeah, I
Not,
wonder what happens there.
I I I don't see that happening. Uh because it would get into a constitutionality issue, I think, and I think that would
That's
be
the
a
question. Is it constitutional?
no, I don't think it would be because I think the Constitution is pretty clear on who can run for president. Um, so keeping somebody off the ballot prevents them from running for president, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you can
Um,
write them in. There's nothing that says you can't write them in.
right. Eh, I'd be surprised if it gets anywhere, but I'll look into it. So, anyways, I think that's probably, unless you have anything else on the debate. Uh, anything
Yeah,
else?
let's see. I just had a few comments.
Sure.
Asa, he should drop out. Um, that's
You
all I
mean
have to say about
Ada?
him.
You mean Ada?
Ada.
Did you-
But I'm not going to tell you why I call him that. Yeah,
It's really hard to figure out what's ADA. It's Americans
yeah,
with Disabilities Act, right?
yeah.
So he was he the guy can't. This is Trump. He made the joke in the Tucker quote unquote interview that
Yeah.
his nickname for Asa is Ada, but he
But he's
wouldn't
not
tell
going
him
to say
why
why.
because he would get into trouble. Like
Yep.
like that's prevented him any time from saying anything.
Yeah.
So Asa should
Just
drop
got a
out.
little Chuck Todd, the sleepy-eyed son of a bitch. Remember when he said that?
Yeah,
Anyway,
I've always liked Asa, but you're right. He's kind of that middle of the road centrist Republican. He's probably not going to get too much headway in this group, or at this time, anyway. Unfortunately,
Tim Scott was good. I've liked him for years.
Tim's all right.
I think he should have taken a stronger stance on spending. He had a kind of a, I don't know if I'd call it good. He had a portion of the debate where he went after the base. If you're able, if you're able-bodied, you work. Take out a loan, you pay it back. If you commit a violent crime, you go to jail. Men versus men in sports, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Um, I don't know that there's that to me can rile up the base. It's a very loose policy stance, but there's not really a lot of meat behind that sort of thing. I hope Tim Scott gets a chance to participate when there's four people in the race, because maybe he'll have a better chance to speak, kind of put some meat behind his policy. Um, Burgum seems strong on the Constitution. That's libertarian. I mean, I like that.
He pulled it out of his pocket, I think.
Yeah, maybe he'll gain a point or two from the debate. I actually did think he did pretty well, but I just don't see him competing.
He was pretty stuck on is not surprisingly coming from North Dakota his gas and oil agenda.
Yeah, right. And
Good for him. Stick
Yeah.
up. He'll win another term as governor.
Yep, and that's pretty much probably what he's running for more at this point. Maybe a position somewhere.
Right.
But one of the really strong thoughts about the debate I've got is I think preconceived notions are more important than the debate was.
Meaning.
Um, well, people have already got their opinions, right? So people have already got an opinion about Trump. Trump can go out there say whatever he wants. Doesn't really matter. We already know who Chris Christie is, right? He's in some people's opinion, a rhino. You call him an establishment politician. That's what I'd call him. He's an establishment politician. There's not a lot he's going to say that's going to remove people from that opinion. And if you want an establishment politician, fine, but he didn't do anything last night that's going to change people's minds. Nikki, she's Nikki. I don't think she has it. Ron DeSantis, people know who he is, but he's already fighting, questions about his awkwardness more than anything else. He can't gain traction, and he should just be holding his record up to everybody and saying, look, here I am. So some of it's probably a preconceived notion that's written by the media, I think, but like it or not, people have them. Um, and Ramaswamy again, I think he's making a few waves, but I still think people kind of have a general lack of trust on him, in large part because they don't know him, but also in small part because he's now starting to get attacked. There's, again, he's a rich guy, pharmaceutical ties, George Soros ties. There's records of him saying one thing and then saying another thing a few weeks later. And that example that I had earlier of the climate change hoax versus climate change is legit is just one of them, right? So, I mean, did last night, I'll just ask you, did anybody change your mind about them? Or
Um,
did the notions you have about them, did the notions you had or ideas and thoughts you had about a candidate, did they change at all last night?
yeah, I mean, I don't think DeSantis is going to get traction. Um, Vivek, I understand where he's coming from, and he is the fresh voice here, but
Feels like a lost puppy dog.
he's got to work on he's got a ways to go. Um, you know, I'm always like the voice of reason and the sensible person, and so Nikki Haley seemed to be the Nikki and Tim probably are the two, and even Mike Pence are kind of the middle of the road, not for the Republican Party
But you've
anyway.
liked Nikki Haley for
I
years.
I think
I
I
won't.
think
At least you've respected her as a candidate because we've
yes,
talked
yeah,
about her years ago.
right,
Yeah,
yeah. I do.
no, nothing changed.
No, but I think she had a decent showing. So, um, yeah, I think people come in with preconceived notions, especially if they're not talking about anything like you said, anything groundbreaking or new or anything really deep into policy. Um, nothing's gonna move the needle that much, other than kind of personality traits and those kind of views that you take away from these things that you get to see, them kind of in that forum for 2 hours. So we'll see what comes next. My guess is it'll wind up, it'll whittle down, and like you said, there'll be two or three or four, and then they're going to have to consolidate against around someone. At this point, it seems DeSantis is still there, but it could be any of the other. Could be Nikki, could be Vivek. I don't see too many other people having too much. Could be Tim Scott, possibly. I don't think Pence stands a chance, or any of the others on the stage as far as being any kind of competition against Donald at this point. Um, all right.
Under
Well,
Trump,
that, that's the debate wrap up, the Republican debate wrap up, and what we'll do is, uh, if the next one includes Donald, we'll cover that one. Otherwise, if nothing changes, we'll go on to other topics. But kind of as an
are you gonna
interlude, but
are you gonna rap some Eminem like Ramaswamy? You're doing that today, right?
that's right. Here we go. This is my rap now. As an interlude, before we talk briefly about the Trump Tucker interview, I'd like to present another episode of Biden Family Ties. As you remember last time, dear listener, and Biden Family Ties is brought to you by Burisma, National Gas Company, out of the Kiev, Ukraine, and We Fix Laptops out of Wilmington, Delaware. So, now, again, this is all hypothetical, satirical, not based on any real characters or situation. But imagine, if you will, dear listener, a woman is sitting at her kitchen table, grating papers, and a big cup of coffee sitting in front of her as she burns the midnight oil.
Bourbon.
Bourbon, yep. And then her cell phone, which sits next to her, begins to ring. It's the theme for Miami Vice. She frowns, knowing that her messed up stepson, Hunter, is calling. She feels for him, but she wishes he would just stop calling her. So she reluctantly picks up and hears, "Hey, Mom," and cringes slightly. "Oh, hi, dear. I wish you would just call me Jill. What's up?" "Oh, Mom, just thinking about you as I'm sitting here at my Narcotics Anonymous meeting. How's Dad doing?" "Oh, you know your father. He's usually bumbling self. I wish Barack would have over once to the White House to get him off out of the house. He keeps stumbling around and breaking things." "Oh, Dad's a hoot, Mom. He's been that way since he was 32. Speaking of which, isn't it Dad's birthday's next week?" "Oh, yes, dear. In fact, it is. But I've actually lost count of how old he is." So have I, Mom. But I would like to throw him a surprise birthday party at the Cafe Milano next week. I know he loves that place, and so his friends. But it's so easy to surprise him since he forgets it's his birthday or even what day it is. He's a hoot, Mom." "He certainly is, dear. I think that's a great idea. Let's say we stop by around 7 on Tuesday." No, Mom, that won't work. His friends aren't in town until Thursday. So we'll have to be then." But dear, that's not his birthday." "I know, Mom. But just do me a solid. Just have the Secret Service drive him to the Cafe Milano on Thursday at 8. You won't need to come. I'd just like it, be a boys' night out." Growing suspicious, she gives in, says, "Sure, dear," and hangs up. Cut to Thursday night at the busy Cafe Milano. Joe stumbles in and sees his son with a group of folks he doesn't recognize. As he walks to the table, he sees the bottles of vodka on the table and has this sinking feeling. He turns towards the camera and plants his palm firmly on his face. And that, my friends, is another episode of Biden Family Ties.
I think
How'd you like the Hunter voice? It was supposed to be, it's a mix between the liar character, John Lovett's liar character, and like a 30s gangster.
That's not bad at all. The only thing I would have changed is Hunter, or at one point in the story, Joe would have been swimming naked in the pool with the Secret Service having to watch him.
All right,
That's
I'll have you touch up my script next time.
There you go.
I literally, if you couldn't tell, I literally wrote it 5 minutes before we started.
Yeah. So he wasn't away. He was out in the pool. Secret Service is watching him swim. But yeah, other than that, not too bad.
Yeah, that's, we're going to try to provide occasional comic relief. Hopefully that's somewhat funny.
Hopefully we'll get better at this. Right?
What?
Settle down, Kevin. I didn't mean that as an insult.
Jesus Christ. All right. But I thought that one was better than the last one. At least I did. I did character voices. I did have dialogue and sound effects. Can you beat that?
No, I haven't added any sound effects yet, at least intentionally.
Yeah, you barely came up with a catchphrase.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
All right. Anyways, yeah, we are planning on adding some humor and relief, and we've got some ideas. So stick with us, customers. It's not all going to be serious political talk. Because as I talk to people about it, especially younger folks, I mentioned it's a political contest, and they go, can you do something funny? That's what they say. So
yeah, I've caught some of that too. I think we need to get a little more humor in here, and we'll figure that out. Get the comedy writers right on it.
Yeah. We'll get the staff right on it. So anyways, we'll jump to the Tucker Trump interview, if you could call it an interview. That was I guess he posted it just right around the time of the debate. Is that right? I kind of looked after the debate and I found it out there.
He went live about 5 minutes right before the debate.
Yeah. So, your initial comment to me was it seemed like he was fairly low energy Trump,
He did.
which I would kind of agree with. There wasn't, it was the typical. A lot of people, many people say, uh, he didn't even, he didn't even come up with too many new nicknames. I mean, he threw out the desanctimonious, and of course, as we talked about the Ada, which I got a kick out of. I didn't. I'm surprised he hasn't labeled Vivek Apu yet. You know,
That would be great.
I that would be.
It's coming.
I think that would be a natural.
Yeah.
I might just send him a zeet and
Yeah.
give him that one. He'll hire me as a campaign advisor.
Who Ramaswamy?
That's low hanging fruit.
Yeah. That's classic Trump right there. That's
Yeah, then he just transferred the crooked
You should run for
nickname.
president.
Yeah, he transferred the crooked nickname, as he pointed out, from Hillary to Joe. He's like,
Yep.
I transferred that from Hillary to Joe. Yeah, we get it.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments.
This guy, he's literally too much. I mean, I was watching it, like 11 o'clock last night in the bedroom, and I was just laughing.
Well, and
Just
I thought
laughing.
that was the strong point he had, right? Because, I mean, he's great at creating an image of others. He didn't really say anything policy important in that whole 25 minutes with Tucker. But he created a great image of Joe. I transferred frickin' from Hillary to Joe. He looks like
Yeah,
he's walking on toothpicks. What does that even mean?
yeah, we could get into his whole discussion on Joe on the beach.
He's
I think
fighting
he
the
spent.
beach. He's
I think he
fighting the
spent.
sands.
I think he spent 10 minutes talking about Joe on the beach,
Can't
and
pick
then
up a 2-ounce chair.
he came up with a. Yeah, he can't pick up a chair. He's got his stick legs. You ever see him walk on
Yeah.
the beach? This
You're,
is
I mean,
this is
you're. Have you ever seen? You're just waiting for him to collapse, and he almost always does.
nobody's writing this stuff for him. He's coming up
No.
with it just off the
Yep.
top of his head.
That's just fantastic. The Kamala Harris remarks. I think he missed a little bit there when he was talking about the bus, right?
Yeah,
She always rhymes. The bus goes here. Bus goes there.
yeah,
'Cause that's what a bus does. I think he meant. I think that was probably written and he forgot it because
yeah. It kind
I
of
think
fell apart on him. He didn't have the
the
line.
bus goes to, the bus goes fro. That's what buses do, or fro to do, something like that. I think he probably meant something like he messed that up a little bit. But yeah, I mean
Yeah, I
that's what he
like.
does.
He came up with the bushies. They're bushies.
Yep,
I
they're
never heard
bushy.
him say that before.
Yep.
And talking about Jeffrey Epstein because that's news.
I was surprised he took that stance. I really was. That
That he
you
wasn't
know,
killed.
yeah,
Yeah, I think Tucker was trying to go. Clearly, Tucker thinks he was killed.
yeah, and I think Tucker was trying to set up the question he had later, and whether or not Trump thinks the government will try to kill him. Right. I think he was trying to really set that up. But yeah, I think I found it really interesting that stance. Trump was pretty adamant, like, no, I think he probably did it. And then I had some questions on whether or not it was self-reflective when he made the comment, like, well, think about it. He had all these beautiful properties and beautiful women, and then he just was stuck in jail.
Right.
And there's definitely it felt like some self-reflection went on there. And I stopped
Yeah,
the
it
thought
did.
there because I didn't want it to go dark, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
but um,
Yeah. Tucker
yeah,
definitely was fixated on. Well, if they're indicting you, and that's increasing your polls. What do they have to do to stop you? He asked twice. Tucker
hmm
asked twice whether he thought they were going to kill him.
yeah, he did.
And you're right. Trump didn't even take that bait. He kind of side pedaled those questions, and you know so he started talking about, well, there was they got back into water pressure. I thought that I thought that was issue was solved, but Evidently, water pressures is still a thing.
Yeah, and I mean, the key there, I mean, I think the interview is a bit of a microcosm for what the rest of the campaign is going to look like because he spent most of the interview defending himself and he didn't cover policy much at all, right? I mean, I would guess most of it was defending himself. Portion of it was attacking Joe based upon his capability to be a president, which I think is warranted. No policy. And that's what we're looking at for the rest of the campaign.
Yeah, they're just kind of
Um,
resting on their laurels or that they're a known entity and just go from there.
well, yeah, and that's the thing. The political troubles are going to suck the air out of any policy message through the rest of the campaign. And those that think, the sense that the Department of Justice is kind of cheating them and abusing the power, and the President Biden is abusing his Department of Justice to go after Trump. I think a lot of people probably think that's his goal. Let's suck all the money out of the campaign we can. Let's suck the air out of any policy message he can. Keep him focused on defending himself in court and in public. And it's just it's really it's an interesting case. There's a lot to think about there.
It's not a
Um,
bad strategy, but it's just a bad strategy for the country.
it's a horrible
Right,
strategy for the country. Where
right,
does it go from here? That's
right.
that's the concern. And I know you believe that if you're guilty, you should absolutely be charged. And I agree with you there as well. But given the whole situation with Hunter, which we don't need to get back into, given the situation with the other politicians in the past, whether it be pardons or no charges or plea deals, and when you compare them to what's going on with Trump and what has gone on with him since he really stepped off that escalator years ago, it it doesn't look great.
You still think
And
the scales are they're pressing the scales against him.
absolutely.
Okay, maybe not as
Uh,
much as he contends, but nonetheless,
yeah, I'm not saying the guy's innocent. Yeah, but
I could
okay.
make
I
an
mean,
argument that
tell me a
he's
president in the last 10 presidents that didn't have classified documents at their place of
yeah, but
residence. Give
there's
me one.
there's different extenuating circumstances to that. I think you know that he fought that and he I think the charges are the intent to hide versus actually having them in your possession. I
What are
think
the
if he I
chances
think
that
if he
President
turned them
Obama still
over,
has
I think if
classified
he turned them
documents?
over when they asked for them, I don't think there would be an issue.
What are the
I'm
chances that
confident of
President
that.
Bush still has classified
Probably,
documents sitting in
probably,
his office today?
probably, because I think the classification system needs to be looked at because I think a lot of things are classified that might not be need to be classified, and I think there's just a lot of documents. I don't think that's the issue. The issue is that once he knew we had them, he did not provide them, and I think the charges and some of the people who are involved will indicate that he was moving him around and showing them to other people and saying, I shouldn't show you, but here it is anyway. So a little
This
bit different. Let's not get
this
into this.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
other than to say you think it's a little bit on the political side. I don't think as much. I think I can make the argument that, in fact, that he was a former president of the United States might give him some deference in regards to moving forward with charges because it's such a high profile and so meaningful for the country that if they didn't think that they really needed to charge him and didn't think that they had him on these things, and time will tell. I still don't know if you're going to have a jury who's going to find or who's going to convict him of the charges. So I think that's the largest risk here. But anyways,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I agree.
getting
Let's stay
back
away
to
from this because we'll be on for an hour about
yeah,
it. But
getting back to the interview. So I thought, and I think one thing he came up with was the Manchurian Candidate thing. I think you're going to hear that probably a lot from him. That Biden's a Manchurian candidate with the China money and the. I think that's a line. I think he came up with it, and he was throwing it. I've never heard him say that before, but I would imagine that we could expect to hear that a lot. I didn't expect the Panama Canal to be coming up in that interview. I didn't know
That
that.
was a surprise.
I didn't know that was still a contention. He went back to I think that was Jimmy Carter's administration. He really went back in time, but uh, uh, we could go
China
back to
and Cuba is interesting too. Yeah.
China and Cuba. He threw those were some new things that we hadn't heard about before, but I think he was trying to just tie in the whole China thing to Joe and um, and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The thing is policy, right? I mean, there wasn't a lot of policy in that interview, just like
no,
there wasn't in in the debate. Generally speaking, I think we can assume the border is going to be a policy. We can assume that if he gets hired, he'll very quickly fire a few high-profile people like he did at the beginning. But again, those are assumptions. There was no question about the vaccine, which I thought was a miss, and how COVID was handled. I don't know if that's because Trump was kind of controlling the time frame or not there, right?
right,
But I think back personally, right after Trump got elected, the first budget he signed, and the base was upset that he was going to sign it because there was just a ton of pork and a ton of money for special interest and everything else in that. And he delayed signing a little bit, but he came out and he said, "I'm going to sign this because it needs to get done, but I'm not going to sign another like this." And then, of course, he signed three more,
right.
right? So I don't think, my thought is if he gets elected, he's not another, we already know who he is. He can't run anymore as the candidate that's going to change the system, break the system, and change things.
Because he didn't.
Because he didn't.
Right.
And he didn't present himself as that against, or the other night on Tucker, right? He
No,
just
he
didn't.
hasn't. No.
So I don't know if he can get that lightning in a bottle again and win. The only chance he's got is running against Biden and Biden's deficiencies.
Yeah. Like I said,
And
it's a
it,
pickle.
it doesn't take us forward as a country either way.
Still gives me hope that some third party candidate. I was thinking, what if Vivek or somebody broke loose and you know joined the no labels or some third party. I still think we're going to see third party contention here pretty strong. It's simply because the numbers in regards to people who don't want this to be the race is way
If that's
high.
going to happen, it's got to happen soon. So
Eh,
we're now in
I don't know.
debate season. We're only, what, 4 months away from the primary?
I don't know.
Four and a
Sometimes it
half?
helps to show up late. Sometimes it helps to show up late, especially if you're known entities at that point. I mean, you gotta be a known entity, right?
Like, well, again, I think if you're Dwayne The Rock Johnson
Yeah, right.
or
You have to have that appeal, or people have to know who you are to instantly get up. But that's still possible. All right, Dwayne the Rock. We're gonna reach out to him to talk on the next podcast, along with Vivek. We haven't heard back from Bernie at all. I reached out to Bernie Sanders to talk about because last time we talked about modern monetary theory. He hasn't responded yet, but hopefully he'll respond. And we'll continue to reach out to guests to appear on the show to provide you an interesting and informative podcast. But I think that's it for now, right, Bob? Or we got anything else?
yeah, I think we're good.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Hope you made it to the end. Hopefully it was somewhat informative, funny, and a reasonable discussion, and you took away something that you can, you know, enjoy your week. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Take care, Bob.
Take it easy, Kevin.
Bye.